Good morning, Market Chameleons, and everyone joining us for the first time. Thanks for coming by and checking out the Market Chameleon pre-market show with this man, Dmitry Pargamanik. How you doing, D?
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Great. You want to start with the disclaimer?
Yep. Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, keep in mind, Will and I, Market Chameleon, we're not a registered investment advisor. We're not a broker dealer. We're not telling you what to do. We're just sharing ideas. If you need professional help, professional advice, call your registered investment advisor. Call your broker. That's what they're there for, to give you advice, give you some guidance. There's the disclaimer.
Excellent.
Let me share my screen. And really, we do this show every day to help answer questions about Market Chameleon tools, data analytics. If you guys have any questions, put the questions on the live chat on YouTube. Will's watching it. He'll read them back to me. If you want to come on a show and ask your question live and direct, we also provide a link to Zoom. If you click on that link, it takes you over to Zoom. Once you're in Zoom, there's a button at the bottom, raise your hand. Click on that button. You don't have to turn on your video camera. Once we let you in, everybody could hear you. You could ask your question directly. While we're waiting for questions to come in, we'll start out taking a look at the pre-market report, see what stocks are trading in pre-market hours. Maybe we'll navigate to a couple other reports on the Market Chameleon, see if we could get some insights into trades, market, what the markets are doing. So we'll start out pre-market report. Will stop me if we have questions coming in.
Perfect.
All right. So pre-market report, these are stocks trading in pre-market hours. We have our most active list, stocks with the biggest percentage gainers, biggest percentage decliners. There are 24 stocks that made our percentage gainers list versus 21 on the decliners. From this perspective, we look like we're pretty neutral at the open. I think the rest of the week might be slow at this point, Will, right? We got is the market closed on Monday?
It's closed next Monday, correct? So New Year's Day.
Yep. So with the holidays, the market looks like it's going to be pretty slow. I look like there are no earnings coming out, no big events. So I think things are slowing down. Looks like right now the market's kind of neutral. But let's take a look. Let's filter out this list to only S&P 500 companies, see what's going on there. And what we want to do is take these pre-market stocks that are trading in pre-market hours and reduce them to stocks that are part of the S&P 500 companies. And to do that, I'm going to use this filter up here in ETF. I'm going to drop it down, and you see a list of ETFs. When you select one of these ETFs, let's do SPY, that's S&P 500 ETF, the list below will get filtered by stocks that are holdings in that ETF. In SPY case, that's the S&P 500 constituents. And we see here 2 made our percentage gainers list, 1 on the decliners. So pretty even at the open. Tesla rebounding a little bit here, up 1.6%, but it has been, on a pretty steady downtrend in the last 3 months. We looked at that yesterday. What I'll do is we'll take a look at, while we're waiting for questions to come in, I might come back to this report, but I want to show you in the SPY, these are the S&P 500 ETF. And if we go down to the holdings, here, these are the stocks that are holdings in SPY. All right. And up top, it's sorted right now by the highest weighting in the S&P 500. So when we look at the S&P 500 index, they're not all equally weighted, right? The higher cap stocks have more weighting in the S&P 500 than the lower cap stocks. So it is a cap weighted index, and these weightings can change and they rebalance it. So you could see here, Apple 6%, more than 6% of represents more than 6% of the entire S&P 500. Microsoft 5.5% of the entire S&P 500. In other words, it's not the same. It's not an equal amount of shares, and it's not an equal amount of dollar value in each stock. It is a cap weighted index. And what's interesting here is look at these two stocks represent almost 12% of the entire S&P 500. If you guys, I don't know the entire history, Microsoft, Apple, Bill Gates, and Steve Jobs really started we could say the technological revolution that we've seen in the last couple decades, right?
They were two of the biggest personalities for sure.
Two of the biggest personalities, both of them, into the operating system space. So without the operating systems, really, we wouldn't have computers like we're seeing today. And they've been able to hold on and grow. And you could see even throughout that entire period in the 3 decades, there are a lot of innovators, a lot of people came out with great ideas and even contributed to the technology. But eventually, either there's somebody to replace that technology, they didn't do well, or they were bought out, whatever you see. But you could see now they're the clear winners, right? Microsoft 1.8 trillion and Apple $2.1 trillion in market cap. And nobody ever took them down, which is amazing. And I don't know if that's going to.
Well, I mean, if you look at the history of the stocks, they've both had down periods, right?
Yeah. Apple almost went out of business. Apple, when Steve Jobs left the company, they were in trouble, right?
And Microsoft had a long dead period. People were calling Microsoft dead. And the Ballmer was replaced, and once he was replaced, they were able to refocus and re-strategize, and they've made an incredible run.
They made an incredible run, came back, and right now you could see how high they are and what percentage of the entire S&P 500. That's pretty powerful to these two companies to represent such a big percentage of the S&P 500. And if you look at a lot of these companies, because of Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Meta, Facebook would not even exist if it wasn't for, their innovations. And what's interesting is that the Windows, right, which really kind of took things off, was something that what Steve Jobs saw while he was touring Xerox, I think, and he just took that idea.
I'm pretty sure, correct.
Yeah, I don't even think that the idea came, but he kind of just was a visionary, saw, hey, we could apply this, what Xerox is doing with they had little windows that you could click on, right?
Well, I think Bill Gates was the same way, right?
Steve Jobs told Bill Gates, yeah.
Well, no, the operating system that Microsoft, was basically a product from, I think, maybe IBM or and correct, there are a lot of people in the chat. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they both took a product that was somewhat in the market and were able to maneuver it and make changes, fundamental changes that made it better. And
yeah, definitely. I think Bill Gates bought the operating system. Actually, he didn't even create. I think he bought it because IBM wanted it, and he went out and just found somebody who had that product and bought the operating system from someone else. So you're right. But just showing you right now the concentration of of stocks in the S&P 500 at the top, and we see Amazon now, just under $1 trillion. But what's interesting about these companies is that their innovation, Apple, they really, once they created the smartphone and stuff, their innovations, their products really were building blocks for lots of other companies, right? And they built on top of other companies, but if you look at Apple, Microsoft products, they're probably used in all these S&P 500 companies. And without them, without those products, you wouldn't be able to do what you have been able to achieve. And now, if we look at the original owners are no longer there, right? Bill Gates
Yeah,
no
well,
longer
Steve
there.
Jobs has moved
Passed
on,
away.
hopefully to a better place, and Bill Gates, has. I mean, I still think he owns quite a bit of Microsoft stock, but yeah, I don't think has any leadership role at Microsoft anymore. And it is
Right.
interesting, like you look at Google, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Bill Gates is still in the media, right? You still hear from him, and he's trying to
Yeah.
solve issues around the world. I mean, you never hear from the Google founders, right? I mean, I couldn't even
No,
name them if you asked me.
Sergey,
Amazon,
yeah.
obviously, Bezos is still a big personality, though he has left leadership. Like the last guy left on that list, I think I saw Tesla, Musk, and then you have is Meta even on the list anymore? And there's Meta.
Yeah,
And
look, that's what I was going to look how far they fell. So Tesla, they're at $1 trillion, and you could see how far they fell. They're not even in the top 10 anymore, right? Tesla's not in the top 10. Meta down here, they're not in the top 10, but the original founders are there, and they're still you could have, and like you said, well, they've had ups and downs. Right now they're up here, but they've had
yeah,
periods
and
of where people have dismissed them and almost wrote them off, and I think
Meta and Tesla are going through that now. I mean, in 10 years, are Meta and Tesla back at the top of the list, right? I mean, that's
exactly, that's the question. They're right now, they fell, and they were up here. They were in the top 10. Meta, Tesla, for a while, they were up there for a long time. Now they're going through their phase, and who knows, you never know if they'll come back up, but there's the original founders, the visionaries, they're still there. They're still plugging away. They haven't left. But just wanted to kind of go over here, take a look, because if you've been following the Apple Microsoft story for a long time, they they've been, in periods of growth, and they've been in periods of people wrote them off. Let me take a look back in the pre-market report. We don't have any questions coming in, I assume. Well,
nothing. We have some. Rob was saying he remembers a Windows phone, or he's asking, does anyone remembers the Windows phone? I guess Gates and Microsoft had it before the iPhone, but did not develop it. Gates said it was one of the biggest mistakes he ever made.
That he didn't develop the Windows phone. Yeah. And I'll just go back to while we're talking about it. I know that they did, after the iPhone came out, they did try to come out with an operating system that anybody could put on the phone using Microsoft, but that never really, went anywhere. Kind of what Google's doing with the Android, right? They create the operating system, and you could put it in any phone, which is what Microsoft does with desktops, right? Like you could create a computer and just put Microsoft operating system. Apple went the other way and said, well, we're going to control the operating system and the hardware that it's applied on. So a little bit of a different approach that they had. But yeah, I remember. I think I even knew somebody who bought a phone that had a Windows operating system, and I don't know if they even support it anymore. But
Rob is saying the Windows phone was out early and affectionately called the Brick. Obviously, that's how it looked, with a slide-out keyboard.
Yep.
He says he still has one. That could be a collector's item.
Yep. And if you look at, when you think about even trading, and I say this a lot because trading, some people approach it where they think that they're going to start trading and they're going to just, every trade that they're going to do is going to be a a good trade. Every trade's going to go their way. That they're going to, that they're never going to be wrong. And even these big companies have lots of investments that they made, lots of products that they tried, lots of failures along the way. That's part of just like any business and trading. It's very similar, where you got to be prepared that's part of the game, right? Risks and failures and fails and learning from fails. It's all part of the game. And even, here you go, he had lots of winners, but you're going to have some failures here.
I did hear this morning on the radio that Tesla is going to have 2 cars that are going to be eligible for that $750 or $7,500 tax credit based on the Inflation Reduction Act. I know that was a discussion.
It'll be like a different price point. We'll have to.
Yeah, they're a lower price point, and so it's
yeah.
Tesla's starting to look interesting to a lot of people. The option volume in Tesla is amazing. They've been talking about that on the new, the amount of people trading options in a speculative nature.
Yeah, here's Tesla's option volume in dollar terms. So this is in dollar. You could switch it between option volume, or in dollar terms, because 2 different ways of looking at it. The higher price stocks, will have options that are more pricey, or the implied volatility is higher. There's more premium. There's lots of reasons in option, in the dollar amount invested in options could be different than just the volume alone. And here it's still making the top of the list. Tesla over here in dollar terms, more than 2 times the SPY ETF, which is the S&P 500 ETF, the most active, ETF. But even if you combine SPY and QQQ, right? And I think you could even throw Apple in there in dollar terms. That's how much options traded in Tesla. So a lot yesterday, 1.4 times its average daily.
I guess the 10 busiest options days of all time have occurred this year.
Have occurred what? This year were the 10 busiest hours? Yeah.
They're 10 busiest option days ever. I guess it's the busiest options trading year of all time this year. Not surprising. I mean, everything continues to grow and the market sold off. So
right. And I think there are more players coming into the options into the options markets over time. It takes time for people to learn it, right? Educate them and learn. It's not as easy as trading a stock, where a stock is really more simple to understand than an option or how to use options. But yeah, here you can see Tesla still at the top of the list as far as the option trading volume.
Rob is asking, can we get a list like this of the implied moves amount? Or excuse me, he says, I mean implied moves from large to small. I'm surprised we don't have
moves from large.
You mean intraday moves, Rob? Or moves in the morning?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, you could get like an implied volatility, right? So the implied
changes in implied vol, right?
Or changes in implied vol. You can do implied vol rankings, maybe. Is this it? So this is showing the change in the implied vol, that it's using the 30-day IV. All right, so here you have the 30-day IV. You have the change in the 30-day IV, and you can compare that to the stock's volatility, 20-day in 1 year, right? And then you get the implied vol rankings. Right, so these are the IV rankings for this stock. Was that maybe it?
Rob, does that help? Let us know. There is a little bit of a delay, so we'll hear it back.
Okay. All right. So these are the the IV levels, right? And we could filter this.
D, would you walk Rob how to get to that chart, please?
Yeah, so under options, implied vol rankings. Over here. There's also implied vol movers. Maybe this is more of what he's looking for. So what this is doing is looking at the symbols, and it's looking at each expiration. And for that expiration, it's looking at two things: the implied volatility and the straddle, the implied move based on the straddle. So this is what the stock has to move to cover the cost of the straddle, between now and expiration. So this is looking at the premium, the straddle, and what the stock has to move to cover that premium, right? If you're buying the call, buying a put, the stock has to move enough from that the money's to cover the cost of both. So that's looking at the implied move for here January 20th expiration, 17 days to go. So you can see here this stock, it's a biotech. It looks like that straddle is implying a move of 70%, almost 69.7. And maybe something's happening. It looks like, December 28th, there you go. There's going to be an FDA today. It looks like there's something going on where it could be a catalyst for a move in that stock. Because on average, here we could compare like here, on average, this stock in a 17-day period moves 16.9%. So 17%. So if on average it moves that much, this is way higher, right? That's 4 times higher than its average move. And the highest it moved in a 17-day period in the last 6 years was 55.9%. So this would be higher than its highest move so far in the last 6 years. Okay, so if you took a stretch of 17 days and we look back into history, this would be the highest move in 17 days. And that's kind of measuring the implied move based on the current straddle price. And then we could compare that to actual historical moves to get a sense of, where the straddles are priced relative to that stock's history.
Hey, David was asking, can you go over the imbalance news alert that you had yesterday? Honestly, I don't recall it yesterday. It increased significantly from, he says, 196 to 207 to 246. I think
Where
it was
that?
a large order imbalance. Can't find it at the moment.
Yeah, it could be like in any stock, but if he points me to where it is, let me know.
Was there a particular stock, David, we were looking at? I think we were looking at Tesla yesterday.
But
he doesn't know where it was. That's why he's asking.
Okay, yeah, I'd have to see what you're looking at. But for example, here, how did he word it again?
He says, can you go over the imbalance news alert?
Imbalance news alert. I mean, I'm not sure what imbalance news.
Hey, David, if you want to click over to the Zoom, maybe you can walk us through what we were talking about and maybe find that page for you.
Yeah.
Or you can always drop us an email, support@MarketChameleon.com. We put a lot of videos, so I don't know if it was a live video yesterday morning or something you saw in repeat. But we'd love to help you out. So just
so it could be the option order flow, the imbalance between ways if people were going long or short, our interpretation. It could also be the S&P 500 volume burst. Maybe this is it that he's referring to. And what this, so we'll go over this. I'm assuming maybe he means this because it says, the imbalance. And what this does is it tracks the very large trades in S&P 500 stocks. Okay. Might not have enough time to go over, but
Why don't we? We're about 4 minutes out. So why don't we go over it tomorrow? David's on it, and this is it. So let's go over it tomorrow.
Okay, so we'll go over this tomorrow, and we'll talk about what this is tracking, so you get a better idea what's going on in this report. But it's tracking certain types of trades within the volume. So remember, like when you have total volume on the tape, there's other things going on in there. It's tracking certain types of trades in the S&P 500 companies and monitoring that flow. Okay, so we'll talk about that tomorrow.
Hey, D, would there be a way to test doing a calendar going into the end of the year? And like now that I'm looking at SPY, like if you sold the at the money with the last expiring and bought the at the money for the next week out, or the next day out, to see how it performs over time. Can we do a study like that within the Chameleon?
You mean like a time spread?
Yeah, it'd be a time spread
that straddles like the new year. Like this summer. I'm not sure if I have. I'm not sure. I don't have that set up here. I would have, I could do that internal. I don't think that I have to think about. I'm not sure how to do it to generate it from our tools right now. I have to think about it.
I'd like to see something that's popping in my head is seasonality. We got a new year, end of the year, tax selling and stuff. How do things perform going into the new year would be interesting to look at too.
Yeah, you could do.
We can do that tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, brother. Thanks so much.
You could do it on the equity, but the time spread I have to think about. I'm not sure about how to do it with the time spread.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
All right, everybody. Great job, Dima. Thank you so much.
Yep. All right. Thanks everyone for joining. Stay safe out there. Have a great trading day. Hope to see you guys tomorrow.
All right. And tomorrow we will go over this S&P 500 large volume burst trade report in detail. Thanks, D.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Have a great trading day. Bye-bye.